been stressed in the past couple of weeks? Okay, just kidding. I know you probably definitely have. School's being canceled and jobs are closing down and I can't go to my favorite restaurant to eat and money is a little tight these days. There's lots of stress happening. But good news is I'm going to persuade you in this speech that stress baking is actually one of the best proven ways to reduce stress in your life. And the first point of that is that stress baking, actually, the smells that come from baking release triggers in your olfactory senses that connect to memories. So the way this works is that when you're making that pan of brownies, you smell the delicious smell and you think about the time that your grandma made you brownies when you were sick. Or when you're making muffins, you think about when you were 3 and you made your first batch of muffins and you felt so proud of yourself. And those things actually trigger the memories, which trigger a part of your brain that helps relieve stress. So smells play a huge part in stress relief. The second point is that when you're baking, it's not like cooking. Cooking, you can throw a lot of ingredients in a pot and it'll probably turn out good. But baking has to be very precise. You have to measure everything correctly. You have to make sure your dry ingredients get mixed before they're put with the wet ingredients. And you have to make sure things are timed exactly. While you're doing that, you're focusing so hard on what you're doing that the stress just seems to melt away because you're not thinking about the trouble that you have at work. You're thinking about how this cake needs to turn out amazing and how much brown sugar you need to put in it. The third point is that baking produces an outcome. So have you been working on a paper for a couple weeks and you just can't seem to finish it? Or have you been working on a big project at work and you just don't seem to get any satisfaction from that? The results may come later or they may not come at all. However, with baking produces a positive outcome quickly. Within 30 minutes to an hour, those pan of brownies can come out of the oven and you can eat them and have those results that you have made with your bare hands. The fourth point is that it gives you an immediate relief and a sense of accomplishment. So you feel good about yourself because you've accomplished something with your day or you spent your time doing something that gives you satisfaction or that result. Now, let me tell you, there are some who say that stress baking is actually very dangerous because it actually encourages overeating or obesity, which we know we don't need more of. However, stress baking actually doesn't do that because there is nothing more satisfying than baking a pie for a neighbor or giving a casserole to someone at church who's been struggling. And that's actually what stress baking encourages, is you giving your treats and your creations that you've made to someone else. And you feel pretty good when you've done something good for someone else. And it's hard to be stressed when you are working to bless somebody else or to help someone through a hard time. And sometimes food says something that words just can't. Offering your condolences or your thankfulness for someone to be in your life is sometimes hard for people. So baking is actually a great way to show them that you're sorry or that you're so thankful for them. Donna Pringus is actually a well-known psychologist that champions for stress baking, and she says that baking actually requires a lot of attention. You have to measure and physically roll out the dough. If you're focusing on smell and taste, on being present with what you're baking, that act of mindfulness in that present moment can also have a result in stress reduction. And many other psychologists are also on board this train of stress baking. There's actually something now called pie therapy. Go with me here. You go to this therapy session, which is similar to a group session, and you state why you're there and just what you're hoping to get out of the class, and you make a pie. Sometimes you make a pie by yourself, and sometimes you're partnered with someone else to make this pie just to help you realize where your personality differences are and how you work well with people and how you don't. But the point is that you go and make a pie and you relieve that stress in your life. If you're not comfortable in the kitchen or are a little clumsy when it comes to cooking, This does not probably sound relaxing to you. It probably sounds like your worst nightmare. However, stress baking is not for everyone immediately, but it can be for everyone. So I would say go to Kroger and buy a box mix of cookies or brownies or muffins or whatever makes you happy. Buy that, go home, use the 3 ingredients that it makes to cook this, and feel satisfied with your results. And work your way up to making a beautiful 3-tiered cake. But don't start out with that because this will not help relieve stress if you do that. Work your way up to maybe memorizing a recipe and doing it from memory. And make sure to give your creation to someone else to bless them. So, we've seen that stress baking actually helps because it triggers our olfactory senses. Baking produces an outcome. There's a great sense of satisfaction, and extreme focus is needed for the precision of baking. So, the next time the coronavirus has you down, or maybe you're stressed about work, instead of worrying about what's going on, put down that news article, pick up a mixing bowl, and bake.